by 520. 980. Oh. Let's just stand out for chance. Hello and welcome back to Dozzy's Television Workshop, where today we're going to be taking a look at this Gibson electric piano. Okay, I've just taken the lid off and yeah, what a thing. We appear to have three sections. Don't really know what that does. Presumably this is bass, because we've got bass volume down here. We've got string bass, sax bass, fuzz bass, normal bass and percuss, presumably percussion, bass, sustain, on and off, extended bass, we've got an on-off switch for that, glide is either normal or trumpet, wow wow, trombone 10 feet, it's probably not feet, don't know about music, piano STP, clarinet 16 feet, string 8 feet, harp CD, harpsichord obviously STP, whatever that is, trumpet 8 feet, kinura 8 feet, flute 16 feet, flute 8 feet, piccolo 4 feet, a Nazard 2 2/3 feet, mixture, brilliance normal or full. Over on this side we have vibrato slow or fast, vibrato light or heavy, vibrato off and on, sustain S medium, sustain SS long, staccato ST, on off, reverb on off, percussion on off. This is repeat or off. This presumably is the main switch. Now the fault, as reported to me, is the sustain. It's sustaining no matter what happens. So yeah. So gentleman that owns this, he imported it. He believes it to be the only one in the UK. This is where we get loads of comments going, oh, I've got 3 in my garage. But there we are. So it came from the USA. We have to therefore bear in mind it's 115 volt mains, not to plug it straight into our mains, because that will rapidly end in disaster. I have also realised that there is no socketry on the top, which means very similar to the Wurlitzer, it was sort of underneath. Actually, the mains was on the back on the Wurlitzer, wasn't it? But this has got nothing on the back. Now that gives me a problem, and I will show you. One, this thing is blasted heavy. Okay. So to expose the bottom, we undo these 2 wing nuts here with very, very long threads. Far longer than they need to be, really. We're not really getting this in shot, are we? Okay, there's one, and there's another one over here. Let me move the camera very slightly so we can have a better look. One moment. That would be better there, wouldn't it? Okay, right, let's just undo this other wing nut. Then this hinges down. Now, I was hoping, like the top, it was going to be sort of half hinges and we could lift this out. But they're not. They're fully hinges. Fully hinges? Fully locked together hinges. You can't unslot this cover. And these metal parts here are in fact legs. So let me just ease the mains lead out. It's got an American Shoko plug on. Unsurprisingly, we will be doing something with that so we can connect it to 115 volt supply in a bit. So there's 2 strips of Velcro here. One is not done up. This is done up. And that sort of unhinges these legs, which then fold out. And presumably there was some sort of bar across here at one stage to stop them doing silly things. or maybe even something on these metal pegs here. Or a bar, yeah, there, just to stop these sort of splaying apart. But that's the idea of it. And obviously then it stood up, and this is, there it is, look. There is a bar that goes across there. It is actually formed by the back. So we put our wing nuts back in there. Oh, you can't see that. Is there any camera with a view on it? Let me just disassemble this camera off the stand, and I shall use it handheld. Okay, so you can sort of see here the legs are folded out. Oh, can I get it all in? I'm gonna have to stand back, aren't I? Right, there we are. So the legs sort of hinge out like that. Then the back comes up and sort of forms, I suppose, a bit of a modesty board, and then we put our wing nuts back in through those holes, and that sort of holds the whole thing square. Now that sort of precludes me doing it in the workshop, doesn't it? Because physically I don't have enough room. So yeah, not so good. Okay, I'll just explain how we've got things set up. The workshop is just to my left there. There is an isolated supply of 115 volts, which is going down there to that box and nasty, quite dangerous stuff down there. We don't want to tackle that. It is isolated though, so it's fine. I've got a camera over there. We've got a camera obviously here. I've got a camera in my hand for showing you stuff. So to power up. Now, I thought the original fault was with the sustain, but switch a thing in. What should we have? Piano? Where was that? Piano. So I'm hoping you can hear that. So that's not sustaining at all. Switch it into medium. Yeah, that's working. Long. And that's working. Turns out, I don't think the fault is to do with that at all. I think it's to do with these last two voices here. Piccolo, for example, seems to be working beautifully. Sadly, at this point, errors were made in pushing of record buttons, and what footage I've got is largely irrelevant and erroneous. So just take it for granted that the percussion isn't working. Some of the keyboard matrixing isn't right, and occasionally sustain is seriously affected. So yeah, we've taken the organ apart, and we rejoin the correct bit of footage back in the workshop. Right, I'm back in the workshop. You'll notice things are upside down, and that's because working in the lounge and replacing some of these components is not going to be easy or convenient. So I'm not going to do it. That's all there is to it. Now, things we can see also from this angle. I've spotted a few other things. This is this area of spillage I was talking about just here with this callens in the middle of it. I think you picked that up on that camera quite nicely there. It's gone all green and horrible. We need to take that out and evict these collins as well. There's also a sprague down here. Watkins copycats often have those in. They often fail short. So I'm in two minds to at least take it out and see what construction it is. If it's a sprague electrolytic, it may well get changed. Incidentally, we have got a date code on this callens. It is the 35th week of 1967. So we've got a date, which is nice. And yeah, right. I think the first thing to do is to start removing some of these rather odd screws. Oh, there's a screw loose here as well, look, holding this lot in here. It's only half done up. It's a 4BA by the look of it. So that's quite good. And I've also noticed there's some corrosion and something else has been spilt down by this base select switch here. So we need to get and clean that all up. Yeah. Yeah, let's make a start. I think the first thing to do is to unscrew this panel, lift it up. Oh, no, so many screws we got. 6 for a bit. Yep, 6. So take that out and get on with that. That isn't 4BA, I don't think. One moment, please. Let's find out. I've got a 4BA driver somewhere there. Oh, they are. They are 4BA. That's going to make life a bit easier. Okay. First one out. And stuck into the end of the screwdriver. Oh, this is the one with the corrosion sort of all over it. Most unpleasant. Okay. We're a little bit gentle with the wiring loom because it's years old. I don't want to add any faults onto it, really. Especially as most of the wires in it appear to be either red or brown. I suspect this is all power supply. Bass volume pot, pedal amplifier in. The Chicago Musical Instrument Company. There we are. Ground, 17 volts. Input, divider ground, B plus and output. So these are the dividers. Excellent. Lots of unpleasantness to deal with here. Jolly good. So, Callins. Oh, now these capacitors are older. These are 1966. We're going to need to make a big order, I think. They're 30 microfarads, so we're going to put 33s in there, I think. It won't be critical. So 33 mic at 20 volts. I'm going to need many of them. I think the next thing to do, because I believe this section hinges up, it's 2 shoddily mismatched screws right down in there. I'm going to take those 2 out, hinge it up, and I think we need to count how many capacitors we've got to order, because it will be many. Yeah, that's not an original screw, is it? Right, now I think this will now hinge up out the way. It will. Just. Wow. More horrible Callins. I was going to say horrible Hunts then. That's a dual 32 by 200 mic, 35 volt. Okay, so we need to make ourselves a list. And order this lot up. So I wonder what this board is. So these are oscillators and the dividers. This controls the divider. So this must be all the note filtration and filter shaping. 68 to 26, right, 1968. Any advance on 68? And it's late 68 as well. Because, oh no, 68, 26 on the board. 6812 on the board down here, 12th week of 1968. That must be Worth Electric. So those are transformers? Anyway, right. Yeah, we got a lot to do, haven't we? So, how many capacitors have I got on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 59. Guess what? We're going to be ordering 60, aren't we? Chicago Musical Instruments, 737 North Cicero Avenue. There we go, that's even got their name on it. really was a monumental wiring job. It's going to be a monumental capacitoring job as well. Right, we've had a few delays. Basically, because of the temperature in the workshop, this building has a flat roof, and it's been absolutely cooking in here on account of the UK's had a very unusual thing, and we've had some nice weather. So anyway, that's given us time for the bits to arrive from RS, which is very nice. I did spray some rust sort of eating stuff on here. It's made a bit of a job of it. Certainly a lot better than it was. The other thing I've done is I've invested in a brand fire new toothbrush. We've got some IPA cleaner. We're going to want a little bit of absorbent material. Right. We've got a bit of kitchen roll there for not getting stuff everywhere. And I'm just going to clean this area, which looks particularly green and unpleasant and contaminated. So yeah, let's get a bit of that on there and gently agitate. You can see the green corrosion coming off this bit of wiring very quickly indeed, which is good news. I'm not too fussed about this cowlings because it's going to be coming out anyway in a minute. So yeah, we just clean that up as best we can. It's actually where the board's been soldered all those years ago. There's a bit of flux left on there, which is going a bit sticky. Yeah. Did want to get in there and clean that board out, but I think I'm going to wait until I work on that area anyway. I think that's probably best. Tackle it all in one go. Right, we need to recap this board. So there is some not inconsiderable work to be done there. What parts have we got? We've got lots of, I was going to say those have got to be 33 mics, that's for all these, and a slack handful of others. Let's get rid of all the paper bags. Now these are some semiconductor types. There is a cap in here with a really odd value, and I wanted to preserve it. Although, to be honest, I've looked at the diagram now, and I don't think we need to be as paranoid about it as I thought. And there we go. And of course, nothing would be more important than doing the old paper bag trick before we cast them out. I should go for this camera over here. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's there. Lovely. Right. Welcome and wise forever in my heart. Right. Okay. So, I think I'll start with this board. Why not? It's here. Right. So, being as these capacitors are all the same, I think I'm going to zip them out in one go. Wish me luck. That one is been leaking unpleasantly. That one's been leaking. Now we made the right decision here, didn't we? And that one not so much. No. Yep. Yep. We have green stuff round the legs, everyone. Never good. You can see that on there. Not so good. Good. We know we're doing the right thing here. I'm changing them this there's various cracks in this sort of potting underneath, presumably where the capacitor interior is leaking and causing that to break down. Right, let's throw those in a pot. So those are all 30 microfarads. We're going to go with the nearest value to what we have got, which is 33 in this day and age, and it's not going to make one iota of difference to the performance of the instrument. I'll tip these in there so I can get at them easy. There are so many of these I've got to do. So, right. Reinstallation. New component, as usual, much smaller than the old one. Technology has moved on.
2 hours later.
The first board is finished. Maybe it wants a little bit more cleaning up work, but I'm happy there's no green, nasty, conductive stuff floating around on the top anymore. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. So, yeah. Oh, that was it. These capacitors here, these two here, and this, I believe, is the tremolo. Vibrato, my bad. Oh, no, it does vibrato and tremolo. Okay. Ah, we've actually got a date on here, 22nd of January 1966. Very nice. So we think this was probably made about 68. So these are 1.4 microfarads. Didn't want to mess with the value of that. I haven't looked at the schematic, but at the time I thought it could be critical. So in fact there's 3 in there. So I've ordered some of those, but they're surface mount. Obviously with surface mounted components you get a much better choice of value. So what I should do, I should take these out and I will mount up the surface mounts on little bits of wire and insert them through. Incidentally, once again, we've got lots of green nastiness going on these lead outs coming through the case. So I suspect these are leaking anyway. Right, let's take them out and get on with it. Oh, that's a pain. This capacitor here, you can see that one. Red on both ends. It's a non-polarized electrolytic. What sort of value is he? I have some, but I don't keep many. 8 microfarads. So 2 16s or something in parallel will give us in series 8 mic with the centre legs done. Electrically similar. Wonderful. All right. So I can see the start of evidence of dry jointing on these pin connectors here on this vibrato board as well. So let's let's start on that. To be quite honest, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip through most of this. You know, you've seen me recap one board, you've seen me recap all of them. We'll come back when I get to the bottom here, because there's some not inconsiderable disassembly to do to get these boards out and into a serviceable position where we can work on them. Right. It's interesting. Somebody's marked in pencil on this vibrato stroke tremolo board. They've already marked the polarity of the capacitors. They were obviously of a mind to change them as well.
Later that same evening.
So now that is sort of this top section complete. And I did look about sort of removing it, but no, not happening. There's an awful lot of wiring and I do not want to disturb that. Or disturb it as least as I can. So I now need to obviously get these bottom boards. So we've got a bit of power supply and amplifier section here, and then we've got all these envelope shapers. So, or voices if you like. So I think the best thing to do here is just to remove the two chassis rails that contain all these electronics. That will allow me to get to everything on this board, most of everything on this board, nothing on this board, but that can come out separately. And then we can do that board afterwards, and that will allow us to get at the bottom half of this left-hand board, which is obscured at the moment. So now, anyway, we have access, possibly for the first time since 1968, to the bottom of the electronics. Oh, it's all very tidy under there. Can we see that on camera? Not really. This is going to be a struggle to show, isn't it? This, however, is a bit of a worry. That bottom chassis thing is sort of punched through there. That's where the power supply is contained. Still, as long as it isn't shorting anything out, I suppose we're all good. This is horribly loose, but we will fix that. I need to get this into a position where I can work on it. Oh, I've almost finished recapping this end of the board now. We're almost there. But the reason this end of the chassis here was all twisted up and that screw was stripped, that was possibly something to do with it, is this instrument's been dropped. It's had a fall. And possibly the reason for some of the intermittency on the faults is due to the fact that this PCB across here, go on, focus, go on, you know you want to. Anyway, this PCB at the end here had a dirty gate crack in it. You can see the crack is just there. It comes in across here to there. That was giving, it was, somebody had repaired it by simply cleaning these tracks back with something abrasive to get rid of the green solder resist, to get the copper back, and then just running solder across them. Well, solder's not structural, and you could see where it had cracked. So what I've done is I've added a piece of wire in there to bridge the two tracks, here, here and here. That's all I can see that's damaged there, but that's why this end of the board has seen a bit of action, I think, and it is because that it's been dropped at some stage, and this chassis bracket, it's all you can see it's moving everything, it's all loose and unpleasant. So and that's where that power supply bracket has punched through, or the legs or something. We'll take a look at that. I'm not very keen on this either. Look there, there is a screw head. Come on, focus. That's it. See a screw head poking through, and there's also a couple down under there. I'm not sure we can see those from here. Not really. There's a couple more screw heads poking up through there where somebody either put bigger screws in or more screws or whatever. Anyway, that's where we've got up to. We've just got this lot under here now to recap. Let's get on with that. Right, we're back in the workshop. I've not been in here for a few weeks. It's been a bit of a family crisis I've had to deal with. So anyway, we're back in here now. So one thing that I did discover last time I was here that didn't get videoed, I was starting to change these capacitors. Now, I unsoldered the first one from down in here and took it out and struggled. And I struggled because the wretched thing's got 3 legs. It is, in fact, the dreaded Callens, but it's a 2 caps in 1 can thing. So we've got a 7 microfarad 20 volt non-polarized capacitor, as well as a 30 microfarad 20 volt non-polarized capacitor. Horrible thing. Let's just have a quick look at the schematic, and I can show you. Schematic was provided for me by Norman. So Norman Leet Industries of Norman Leet Industries, now retired. Thanks, Norman. Insert library photograph of Norman. There we go. Excellent. So thanks, Norman. Here it is, the instruction manual. Really good, really comprehensive. Gibson portable organ. Here we can see what it was supposed to look like when it was new. And it originally had a pedal board. Sorry, is that what it's called? Yes, pedal board. And a volume pedal here. And you can see how the legs folded out and used the back as the thing, which I completely failed to show on camera because the workshop's too small. Anyway, if we... I'm learning more and more about this instrument all the time. I was correct about the dividers. So each note has a master oscillator here. Sorry, it's round the wrong way, but there we are. We'll all get a crick in our neck together. It's tuned by a slug. And each one is then divided down to diode keying. Oh, there's so much diode keying you wouldn't believe. So there is a simple divide by 2 circuit. So we divide our notes down into the octaves. So there we are. Now, vibrato also feeds that. That's a common vibrato oscillator there. And that's one of the modules we did quite early on. Okay, right. So we have got all the thick film, by the way, appear to be resistive only. I don't know whether we could find out what those resistors are if we ever need to make one, but probably. Here we have bass switching, bass percussion. Now the percussion generator, there's a thing. We'll come back to that later on. The bit we're interested in at the moment is this is our double capacitor here. 7 microfarads, non-polar. Look, they put a plus on each end, and 30 microfarads, plus. Interestingly, these generate the sustain by switching the voltages across them here and off to the diode keying network. So this is absolutely critical, along with all these diodes, hundreds of diodes in this thing. So this, I'm hoping, will put our sustain fault right. And look at all this here. Diode keying keyboard groups to all the filters. There's the filter schematic. It's a super comprehensive, super comprehensive manual. This, by the way, is the board we're looking at here. And you can see there are a myriad of diodes and all manner of fun and games in there. And the capacitors are hidden in there, as well as the thick films. There we go. Right, enough of this. So the next job to do is to replace that double capacitor. Now we can't get a double capacitor anymore. So at vast expense, I've bought these. These were not cheap. There's an Elner 6.8 microfarad non-polar. 100 volts rated, so they're quite sizable, but I think we've got enough space in here to fit those. And these, which also were not expensive. That's a 33 microfarad non-polar capacitor. So we can start replacing all these. Now you've all seen me change the capacitor before. The only difference is this one's got 3 legs. So I'm not gonna pain you by making me sit there and watch me change capacitors. So we'll pop back when that's all done. Right, let's get on with it.
One eternity later.
Right, time has passed. A lot of time has passed, and all the staccato and sustain capacitors are renewed. Several were very distressed, so anything that gets involved with mixing up these keying lines can really cause problems. So I'm hoping that's the end of it. The next step, of course, is to put this lot back together. We can then turn our attentions to cleaning up the front sort of switch gear. It all uses springs. It's all really tarnished, so that needs to be sorted. Also, I have noticed on the schematic we missed a capacitor in the power supply, which is that little fella in there hidden underneath these disc ceramics. So we'll just pop that apart. There he is. We'll just get that out of there and get that changed now. Right, I have spun the thing around, a bit Monty Python, yeah, I've got a close-up in the above camera of these switches. So you can sort of see how they operate now. So I need a pointing stick. I shall use this screwdriver, adjustment screwdriver. You can see here is the spring. So sort of attached to the end of the switch. There's several of them going down. And that alternates between this sort of bar here and this one here. Like that. See the next one along. That bar there and that one there. It just happens to be common, that one. And the same sort of over here. All the various different switch configurations for the different instruments. But you can see these are very, very black and tarnished. Especially that one, look at that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get a bit of good old Service Super 10 contact cleaner, and I'm going to get it on a cotton wool bud, and we're just going to clean those contacts up. That's quite a difference. I could try and flood the thing with the stuff, but this is working very nicely. The only trouble is I need to sort of get down into the switch a bit. I'm just going to zoom out, because what we can do is these screws here would appear to sort of lock this in place. So I wonder if there's any mileage in extracting those screws, then we can hinge it up out of the way. So let's just do that. Notice this one here is already half hanging out, which is not ideal. Not surprised that wasn't even in. That wasn't even inserted correctly into the threads. So, right, there we go. Let's pull this one out and see what horrors are beneath here. If this hinges up and leaves the switches in place, that would be ideal, I suppose, because it allowed me to disassemble them and do maybe a better job of it. We're about to find out, that's for sure. I don't think it does. I think it's all one sort of piece, isn't it? The moment of truth, yeah, it is all one piece. Oh look, we've got more delightful electronics behind and some more main G capacitors. Good, we can get... There's one there. What on earth is that? One dreads to think. It's got stuff printed on it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 legs onto some sort of turret board. You have to congratulate Larry. They or Chicago Instrument or whatever they were called that week. Gibson even. They were they used a varying types of construction. We've got PCBs and this sort of turret strip. I suppose that was easy because they could mount the switches easily on there. Why not? So that's 35 volts at 4 microfarads. We put a 4.7 in there with no issues. That'll be all right. Yeah. So, there's some of that corrosion has got through to that switch there. So I'll probably give that a clean as well. It's where somebody obviously spilled a pint of beer on it. And we've got quite a bit on this switchboard as well on this end. So let's get that out and cleaned up. Is it easy for the boards to come apart, I wonder? I don't think it is. One thing I could do is undo these screws here and slide that bar out. That would give us a bit more room, wouldn't it? Let's do that. That's not going to fit. There's my little flat screwdriver on. Okay, I've got everything back together. Turns out if you hinge this switch panel up, you can sort of get at all the contacts just about by working your way in the bottom. I've put a screw back in that just to hold it firm. Now, the next thing really to do, I'll change that capacitor that was under there as well. Next thing really to do is to get aboard the struggle bus, because I need to power the unit back up now, make sure that the sustain is working all right. And we need to find out whether this little neon tube over here is flashing in conjunction with this rate control here. So, some of the sort of reflective coating has chipped off the end of this tube, which, yes, I can see the bulb. It's looked blackened, but I really need to see, you know, right inside it. So let's find out if that's working. And if it is, all is well and good, but we do, because the percussion definitely wasn't working previously, so we need to find out if it's my understanding, it's finger trouble, or we've got further faults. The neon's driven by sort of a high voltage multivibrator, so we need to have a look in there. The one other thing that concerned me is where those new capacitors on that top tier of switching matrix, that they were going to clear this board, and you can actually just see in there, and it's good to go. So I'm really reasonably happy about this. So I'm going to struggle with it back into the area just outside here, and see what we get. Right. Okay, so we've set things back up out here. Let's put some power on it. We've got an isolated 115 volts coming from the workshop. I can only apologise about the lack of real light out here, but we'll able to see things. You should be able to see that neon flashing, which means we've got percussion working. I've learnt what percussion is. It's sort of this effect. So you should have got this repeating. But now the original fault we had was bad sustain. So put medium sustain on. Sustain off, long sustain, all very well and good. We're not quite out of the woods yet. So this key don't appear to have sustain on. This key, we don't have the right amount of sustain on. These two keys here, not only do we not have sustain, but the attack's wrong as well. But other than that, things are a lot better than they was. The bass is all working as it should. Switching off, yep. So that's all working as it should do. That's all very well and good. So it's just those four keys. Everything else is working as it should. So 2 in O envelope, 2, it's interesting actually, that is actually the wrong amount of sustain. If I'd put long on, look, there is sustain there. So it's just the wrong amount of sustain. Does it make any difference on these? No. This one? Yes, it is. That's interesting. I think we've got two faults here. So this key and that key, the sustain is working, but it's the wrong level. This one, the envelope isn't working at all. Right, that's it. It needs to go back into the workshop, and we need to look at what's associated with these 4 keys that are giving us problems. Right. Right, and that's where we're going to end this episode. Come back next time to see us have a look at that keying circuit and see if we can't sort out these dodgy sustains. Like, subscribe, do all that other rubbish, and thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Like you ever doubted it.